Hi and welcome to another exam paper walkthrough. Today I am looking at the first space learning practice set 2, paper 3. So this is a predicted prior to any of the exams being sat, so it's a very good realistic paper 3 revision. Okay. Right, question 1 then. Write the following numbers in order. Let's zoom in a little bit. Write these numbers in order, starting with the smallest. So, in effect, ordering decimal numbers, if you're unsure or struggle, I would always recommend you add enough sort of placeholder 0 values just to make them all the same number of decimal digits. So, in this case, we've got 3 decimal digits there. So, if I add enough decimals to make them all 3 decimal digits, and then it just makes them much easier to order. You can view them as normal numbers at this point. So our smallest one is either 103 or 301. Our smallest is this one, so 0.103. Cross it out. My next smallest then is the other one starting with a 0, so 0.31. That's what it started out as. So when I write the answers, I miss out the 0 that I added on. My next one then, I'm looking at 1.033. My next smallest is 1.11. And then finally, that leaves me with 1.3 as my largest. Okay, question 2. Work out 1/5 of 40. So that's the same as really 40 divided by 5, which is going to give me 8. Feel free to double check all of these answers on a calculator. I'm using quite an old emulator just so I can show it on my screen. There we go. No issue there. Right, question 3. What is the time 3 hours and 20 minutes after 7:15 a.m.? So I'm going to add this in chunks. So I'm going to add on 20 minutes first of all. That would take me to 7 minutes and 35. And then I'm going to add on 3 hours, which would take me to 10:35 a.m. You can use your calculator to do time. So if I'll show the version on my calculator as well. So if I type 7:15 a.m. first of all, I type it as 7 hours and 15 minutes. And to that, I'm going to add on 3 hours and 20 minutes. So 3 hours and 20 minutes. And that should give me 10:35. Same answer, bro. And question 4, write down a multiple of 6 that is between 20 and 35. So if we think about our 6 times table, our first option is going to be 24, which is 6 times 4. We'd also have 30 as an option. So we could pick either one of those. So I'll go for the first one to keep things as simple as I can for my marker. Right, question 5, write 0.8 as a percentage. So in effect, we times it by 100 to get a decimal to a percentage. So that's going to be 80%. And question 6, here is a grid of squares. Write down the ratio of the number of shaded squares to the number of unshaded squares. So I'm going shaded. It doesn't say in its simplest form. We'll have a look at that in a second though. Shaded to unshaded. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shaded. And I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 unshaded. So I can't simplify that. So 5 to 7. And part B, Adam shades 3 more squares. Write down the fraction of squares that are now shaded, giving your answer in its simplest form. Fraction of the squares that are now shaded. So we're going to have 8 squares now shaded out of a total of 12 squares. And both those numbers can be cancelled down by 4. So I would go 2 to 3 in its simplest form. If you're unsure of simplifying, you can use your calculator to simplify for you. 2/3. Right, question 7. Here are the first 4 terms of a sequence. Write down the next 2 terms in this sequence. So these numbers are going up by... Oh, no, they're not. This one jumps by 3. This one jumps by 5. This one jumps by 7. So we're going up in odd numbers at the moment. So the next one we would expect to have a jump of 9. So we're looking at 25. And the next one we would expect to have a jump of 11. So we're going to 36. So I'm going for 25 and 36. Right, question 8. Right, let's zoom this out slightly. Wrong way. So Holly walks 3 kilometers to her friend's house. Holly stops at her friend's house before walking to the post box to post a letter. The travel graph shows Holly's journey. So we've got this bit would be. Apologies. So we've got this bit which represents her walking to her friend's house, stopping, and then walking to the post box. How long did she spend at her friend's house? Well, that's going to be, let's zoom in slightly. So that's going to be the difference between that point there and that point there, which is 1 hour. After posting the letter, Holly walked straight home. It took her 1 hour and 30 minutes to complete the travel graph. So let's just see. So she arrived there. So 30 minutes would take us to there. So she's going to get home at 5 p.m. So we need a straight line going from no pause straight down. Right, question 9. The probability that Nathaniel is late to work is 0.2. What is the probability that he is not late to work? Well, the probability of him being late or not being late need to add up to 1. So the probability of him not being late is going to be 0 minus 0.2, which is going to give me 0.8. The probability that Liv is late for work is 1/8. Who is most likely to be late for work? We've already got the probability that Nathaniel is late to work is 0.2. What we need is to have this as a decimal, and as we're on a calculator paper, it makes sense just to use our calculator. 1 divided by 8. Sure, you're able to do it without a calculator, but to make it nice and quick, so we've got 0.2 versus 0.125. Who is most likely to be late for work? So Nathaniel. Let me just change that versus. I'm going to say 0.2 is greater than 0.125. So question 10. A television costs £420. There is a 15% sale at the shop where the television is sold. Work out the cost of the television in the sale. So a 15% sale means that the price is going to, so in effect 15% has come off the price of the television. Which means that we've got a multiplier of 0.85. So the most straightforward way to work this out is going to be 420 times by 0.85. So if we bring the calculator in, let's get rid of my teams. So I'm going to do 420 multiplied by 0.85, and that gives me 357. So 357. Part B, the shop has a special promotion where all sale prices are reduced by 10%. Show that the cost of the television on this day is £321.30. The shop has a promotion where all sale prices are reduced by 10%. So we're looking at, so the cost of the television on this day is £321.21. So I'm going to say if we're looking at a 10% reduction, that's a multiplier of 0.9. So hopefully 357 times by 0.9 should give me that value, and that also gives me an indication as to whether I was right with my part A. So if we times that by 0.9, that gives me £321.30. So that gives me an indication that I'm also right with part A. Let's stick my pound sign and underline. I'm just looking for an answer line, there isn't one. Right, question 11. The group frequency table gives information about the weight of 40 dogs. This incorrect frequency polygon has been drawn for the information in the table. Write down 2 mistakes that have been made. Before I look at the table, I'm going to guess this joining up is going to be one of the mistakes. Other common mistake, I'm not sure whether it applies here, is that these should be plotted at the midpoint, so that's going to be the first one I check for. So 5 to 10 should have been plotted at 7.5. And it's been plotted at 5. So we've not plotted from the midpoint, and we shouldn't join the tails together. So the 2 mistakes are first point and last point shouldn't be joined. First point and last point should not be joined. Together. And for part B, for part 2, I'm going to say frequencies should be plotted at midpoints, not endpoints. So the frequencies should be plotted at midpoints, not endpoints. So hopefully you can read that. My handwriting is very poor, one of my bad habits of dyslexia. Hopefully that reads okay though. And question 12. Alex is going to sports camp. He needs to pick 2 sports from the following: football, rugby, hockey, basketball. Write down all the possible combinations of sports that he could choose. So he's picking 2, so we could have, if I introduce letters to stand for these, that saves me on my writing. So I'm going to have F followed by each of the options, so F and R, F and H, and F and B. Then I'm going to switch and I'm going to go for R. So I could do rugby and football. I could do, actually I can't have football and rugby because I've already got football and rugby there. Rugby and football and rugby are the same thing, so I'm going to take that one out. So I'm going to say rugby and hockey, rugby and basketball, and then finally my last combination then, hockey and basketball. So if we're assuming that that football and rugby is not the same, it is the same as rugby and football, then we can't have that twice, so I would go for 6 options. Okay, question 13. A pizza restaurant has some small boxes of cheese and some large blocks of cheese in the ratio of 2 to 5. Small blocks of cheese weigh 350 grams and large blocks of cheese weigh 600 grams. There is a total of 42 blocks of cheese. The restaurant needs 42 kilograms of cheese. Do they have enough cheese? Okay, nice question. So let's start off. We've got our ratio of small to large, so I'm going to go S to L, and they're in the ratio of 2 to 5. So in total we've got 7 parts. So each part is going to be worth, actually, 42 blocks of cheese. So each part is going to be worth 32 divided by 7, which is going to give me 6. So each part is worth 6. So we've actually got 12 small blocks and we've got 20 large blocks. And then need to times those by the weights. So I'm going to convert these to be in decimals, and I'm going to write them here. So times by 0.35 and times by 0.6. And I'm actually going to add them together straight away. So I'll write the full calculation. So on my calculator, I'm going to type 12 times by 0.35 plus 20 times by 0.6. I was going to do it there, work out the weights separately, but there's no real advantage to doing that. So 12 times by 0.35 plus 20 times by 0.6, and that gives me 16.2 kilograms. Just double checking some of my work in here. I've made a mistake over here. I wonder if any of you spotted it. So that should have been 30, because 5 times by 6 is 30, not 20. So silly mistake. Glad I went back and double checked. I got a feeling, because it was quite different from the 42 kilograms that I was after, that I'd probably made a mistake. So that's much closer. So I think that's going to be right. 22 kilograms. So that's the weight of cheese that they have. So the restaurant needs 42. Do they have enough cheese? No. As 24 kilograms is less than 22.2 kilograms. Let's just double check that one on the mark scheme. I've been kind of flicking through and double checking. That is correct, yeah. 22.2 kilograms. So technically I've not written my answer there, so I'll go no there. Okay. Right, question 14. Fill in the box to make the calculations true. 48 divided by what will give you minus 8? Well, we could kind of rearrange, but 48 divided by 6 is going to give you 8, so it's got to be minus 6 there. And then for the second one, we need to do this multiplication first before we really look at it. So minus 5 plus something times something is equal to 3. So I'm trying to work out minus 5 plus what would give me 3. So I would need to add on 8. And then if it's 2 times by that, that's got to be 4 there. Right, question 15. Oh, okay. Diagram shows the position of a lighthouse and a ship. We've got a scale of 1 centimeter represents 20 kilometers. Measure the bearing of the ship from the lighthouse. Right, so I'm going to have to struggle with this. Not struggle. So to help me out with this, I'm going to just snip this diagram. Reason being, I can then kind of bring in a protractor much easier. So if I'm looking at this, measure the bearing of the ship from the lighthouse. So I want to measure this angle here. So I'm going to bring in a ruler. I'm going to hopefully spin that around to vertical. And then I'm going to start by drawing a north line from the lighthouse. Ooh. I don't want a highlighter, I want a pen. So north from the lighthouse. And then I'm also going to spin that round, and this is going to kind of tell me anyway, but a line joining the ship and the lighthouse together. So I'm going to go there. And I want to measure this angle here. Ooh. And I want to measure this angle here. So if I now bring in my protractor, hopefully I can do that. So protractor goes on the center, and then I want to measure the angle between this line and this line. So I'm making it 64 degrees. So you can see that method there. I'll go back to my sheet then, and so that angle, if I sketch it on, did we say 64? I'm fairly sure we said 64. Let me doubt to myself now though. Yeah. So I've got that angle of 64 degrees. So as a bearing, that's going to be 0.64. Work out the actual distance of the lighthouse from the ship. So I'm going to be measuring this line. So again, this isn't going to work particularly well on my screen, just because this is a zoomed in version. and it's not real. So I'm measuring the length of the lighthouse to the ship. So I'm sure that mine is, I'm going to rely on the mark scheme here slightly. 1, 2, 3, well mine's 3.7, but I know that that's not right. Okay, so the actual distance there is 4.5 centimeters, if you measure that. And then we're using 1 centimeter represents 20 kilometers, so I need to multiply by 20 to get my answer, which is going to be 90 kilometers. Okay, question 16, right? 84 is a product of its prime factors. So I'm going to use a factor tree for this. I always have a habit, unless it's particularly easier, I always take out my lowest factors first of all. So that's going to be 2 times by 42, which is going to be 2 times by 21, which is going to be 3 times by 7. So as a product of its prime factors, we're looking at 2 times 2 times 3 times 7, or 2 squared times by 3 times by 7. And then find the lowest common multiple of 84 and 30. So I also need to break 30 down into its prime factors. So 2 and 15, which is 3 and 5. So the lowest common multiple is going to be found by the, if I put them into Venn diagrams, it's going to be the intersection. But 30 is going to be equal to 2 times 3 times 5. And it's going to be the factors that they have in common. So they have a 2 in common. Actually, I won't write it there. So the lowest common multiple is going to be found by the factors they have in common. So they've got a 2 in common and a 3 in common. So, and I'm trying to find the lowest common multiple, and I'm describing the highest common factor. So the lowest common multiple is all of the factors included, but repetitions not counted double. So it's going to be 2 squared times by 3 times by 5 times by 7. Which is actually going to be this value times by 5, because that's the only extra factor. So 84 times by 5 is going to be 420. But again, double check on your calculators. So 2 squared times by 3 times by 5 times by 7 gives me 420. Question 17 then, factorize 12x plus 18y. So our highest common factor there is, we've only got a number part in common. They've both got 6 in common. So I take 6 out as a common factor. And then I need to multiply by 2x to get 12x. And I need to multiply by 3y to get 18y. Okay, so solve. For this, where I can, I always do this. I could expand the brackets, that would be absolutely fine. So I could say that 12x plus 6 is equal to 54. That's absolutely fine. I tend to, though, where I can, if this and this, if 54, if 3 is a factor of 54, I would divide by 3 first of all. So that would give me 4. I don't need the brackets. That would give me, I should probably change colour, just to show it's a different method. So that would give me 4x plus 2 is equal to, and 54 divided by 3 is going to give me 54 divided by 3 is going to give me 18. And then minus 2 from both sides to get 4x is equal to 16. And then divide both sides by 4 to get x is equal to 4. If I didn't spot that and I wanted to do it the other way, from here I'd need to minus 6 from both sides, so that would give me 12x is equal to 48, and then 48 divided by 12 would give me 4, either way. Okay then, question 18. Andy cycles from Bristol to Bath. Andy travels 22.8 kilometers in 1 hour and 30 minutes. Work out Andy's average speed, giving your answer in kilometers per hour. Well, that gives us our hint for our speed anyway. So speed is equal to distance divided by time. So the distance is 22.8 and the time I need to be in hours. So 1 hour and 30 minutes is 1.5 hours. So divided by 1.5. So the speed is going to be equal to 22.8 divided by 1.5. So 15.2. Right, part B. The time Andy takes to make his journey is inversely proportional to the speed at which he travels. Which graph shows this relationship between time taken and the speed at which Andy travels? So only one of those graphs is showing inverse proportion, and that would be the first one. The inversely proportional would show that. That's directly proportional. That's cubic, and that's a negative linear graph. So we're going graph A. Okay, complete the table for x squared minus 2x. I could type all of these in. I'll show you two ways to do it on your calculator. You could type this in. You could type each value in. So I tend to, if students struggle with this function that I'm about to show you, tell them to do it like this: minus 2 lots of 0, and then I'll press equals. That'll give me my first value. I always tend to start with my 0 and then my positive values before I do my negative. These tend to be more straightforward. So my first value there should be 0, which makes sense. My next value then, rather than type the whole thing in again, I'm just going to use my replay button. So that gives me value 3. And then my final value I'm typing in. I can make a prediction. I think we've got a pattern here, minus 1 and then 0, 0, 3, 3. So I'm expecting it to be 8. That's my prediction. I'm putting minus 2 in my brackets this time. And that matches with what I expected. Okay, I'm going to show you a second version for that though. So we could, and there's nothing wrong with using your table function on your calculator. So on the FX82 model, you press mode. You do the same on the other version. You get kind of a diagram picture though. So we want the table function, we want the table mode, and we want to type the function in as x squared. So alpha x squared minus 2x, 2 times by x. Oops. And then I want to start at minus 2. And I want to end at 4. And I want it to go in steps of 1. I can adjust the range and the steps if I want to. And then that gives me my values. So those are my values for x. And those are my values for y. Double check. So that agrees with us. So there we go. 8, that's the one that we were asked. Then 0, that was the one that we were asked. And then 3 was the other one. Okay. So next part then, draw the graph. So we're going from our graph. We've got minus 2 and 8. So that would be that point there. We've then got minus 1 and 3. So that would be that point there. We've then got 0 and 0. 1 and minus 1, 2 and 0, 3 and 1, 3 and 3, and then 4 and 8. So plot those, and then I need to draw them with as smooth a curve as I can. My biggest tip for drawing a smooth curve is to keep your wrist on the inside of the curve. So you turn your paper, in this case pretty much upside down. I'm turning my screen upside down. And then keep your wrist on the inside of the curve. Should allow you to draw a smoother curve. And let myself down slightly with that. So not very easy to draw on a computer screen, if I'm honest. There we go. So mine's a bit wobbly. Obviously on paper and with a pencil that would look a lot neater, but there we go. So question 20, we've got a Venn diagram. So this symbol often confused. It just means this is the list of numbers that we're picking from. So basically, I could have said I'm picking from the numbers between 1 and 15. I think that's all the numbers between 1 and 15. Set A are factors of 30 and set B are prime numbers. So if I kind of go down the list, then 1 is a factor of 30 but not a prime number. 2 is a factor of 30 and a prime number. 3 is a prime number and a factor of 30. 4 is neither a prime number nor a factor of 30. And I can put this anywhere outside. So I can put this anywhere on the outside. I tend to list mine at the bottom though. The reason for that is your exam marker wants to be able to see wants to mark quickly. And if you've got them written as a list here, it's much easier for them to than trying to pick out all of the values. And now 5 is going to go, 5 is a prime number. There we go. Sorry, my pen fell out. 5 is a prime number and a factor of 30, so 5 is going to go in the intersection. 6 is 6 is a factor but not a prime. 7 is a prime. 8 is 9. Not a factor or prime. 9 is a neither. 10 is going to go as a factor but not prime. 11 is going to go as a prime. 12 is neither. 13 is prime. And I've just spotted a mistake I made, but I'll come back to that in a second. 13 is neither. 14 is neither. And 15 is a factor, and I've put 1 in the wrong place, so 1 should be a factor but not prime. Okay, right, question 21. So simplify. We've got index laws, so we're going to be adding the powers, so that's going to become p to the power 3 plus 4 would be 7. 3 goes into 12 4 times fully, and then again laws of indices, we subtract the powers, so that would be q to the 5. Right, question 21. Here is a circle. Work out the shaded area. So we want 3/4 of it. So the formula for the area of a circle is pi r squared. And we actually want 3/4, so I'm going to call the area of the shaded is going to be equal to 3/4 of pi r squared, and r is 7, so it will be 3/4 of pi times by 7 squared. And I'm going to type it into my calculator just like that. So back to my calculator then, so I'm going to type it in. I need to go back onto my normal mode. So 3/4 times by pi times by 7 squared, and that gives me, I'll write it down like that, 147 over 4 pi, and then I'll go decimal, so SD, so I'm looking at 115.45353. Then if I'm asked for it to 1 decimal place, so I'm actually rounding to this figure here, and the number behind it is a 5, so that becomes 115.5. Okay, question 23, we're back to an error interval. So number n is rounded to 1 decimal place. The result is 8.7, completely error interval for n. So it's been rounded to 8.7 as opposed to 8.6 or 8.8. So the smallest possible number that would be rounded to 8.7, bearing in mind our actual inequality, is going to be 8.65, and the largest number is going to be 8.75. And I know technically we'd round that up, but that's where we bring this inequality symbol. So we're looking at 8.65 and 8.75. Question 24. Here is some information about the number of siblings that 32 children have. So we've got 32. This should be adding up to 32, and it does. Work out the median number of siblings. So we're going to be times the number of siblings by the frequency. So I'll actually write down here what I'm doing. 0 times by 8 plus 1 times by 13 plus 2 times by 7 plus 3 times by 3 plus 4 times by 1. And I want to divide that by the total frequency, which we're told in the question, we double check, is 32. So using my calculator, I'm going to type it in just like that. So well, I don't need to type 0 times 8. I don't really need to type 1 times 13 because that will be 13. 2 times by 7. So 13 plus 2 times by 7 plus 3 times by 3 plus 4 times by 1. And that's going to give me 40. So 40 divided by 32. And that's going to give me 5 quarters or 1.25. Right, part B. One student is picked at random. Stacey says the probability that the child has at least 2 siblings is 5/16. Is Stacey correct? Well, if we say that we're looking at out of 32, the probability that the child has at least 2 siblings. So which of these have at least 2 siblings? That's that group there. So we would be looking at 11 over 32, which doesn't cancel down. So is she correct? I would say no. 11 out of 32 is not equal to 5/16. So is she? Is Stacey correct? No. Okay, question 24. Here's a regular hexagon. Work out the size of the angle marked with the X. You must give reasons for each stage of your working. Okay, so I'm going to do I'm going to work out the exterior angle. So the exterior angle is going to be equal to 360 divided by 6. So that's going to be equal to 60. So the interior angle is going to be equal to 180 minus 60, which is going to be equal to 120. I've not really given myself enough room to state this. So exterior angle is 360 divided by the number of sides or number of angles. Either is fine. So the interior plus interior equal 180 degrees. I'm then going to say CBF is equal to 90 degrees, and the reason for that is BFCE is a rectangle. So angles are 90 degrees. And then finally, I'm going to say X is going to be equal to 100 and I'll kind of explain it. The exterior, the interior minus 90. So it's going to be equal to 120 minus 90. So it will be equal to 30 degrees. And I don't really need a reason for that. So I'm going to go 30 degrees. Okay, work out the size of angle Y. So this doesn't ask for our reasons. If we look up here, I'll do this in a different colour pen just to show my working for this. So if I know that this full angle here is 120, so each of these angles must be 60. and I know that that's a 90-degree angle, so y must be equal to 180 minus 90 minus 60, so again that would be 30 degrees, or alternatively, we could have argued that that line and that line are parallel, and we've got an alternate angle there, so that would have worked. That would have been much quicker. Okay, 30 degrees. Okay, question 26. A company is designing a new package in the shape of a cuboid. The package must have a height of 16 centimeters, a length of 9 centimeters, and a width of X centimeters as shown. The company wants the surface area to be less than 900 centimeters. Show that. Okay, so for the surface area, we're going to have, in effect, two lots of each one of these. So two lots of x times by 16 plus 9 times by 16 plus 9 times by x. And we want that to be less than 900. So if we look at let's say, I'm not going to times by 2 just yet. I'm going to simplify first of all. So we've got 16x plus 9x. So that's going to be two lots of 16 plus 9 is 25x. And then 9 times by 16 is 144. Let's just double check that though. There we go, 144 times by, which has got to be less than 900. So multiplying out that bracket, then I'm going to get 50x plus 288 has to be less than 900. Okay, then to solve, I'm going to go back to this version though. I think that's easier to solve. So I'm going to say that 2 times by 25x plus 144 has to be less than 900. So if I divide both sides by 2, I'd get 25x plus 144 is less than 450. If I minus 144 from both sides, I'd get 2x has to be less than 306. Let's just, I missed. That's not particularly nice. Let's just correct that and double check. 450 minus 144 does give us 306, so I need to divide both sides by 25 then. So x has to be less than that divided by 25 will give me 12.24. So x has to be less than 12.24. Part C, the length x must be an integer. Write down the greatest possible value for x. Well, if x has got, so I'm after the greatest integer that's less than 12.24, so that would be 12. Okay, and question 27 then, 4 times by 10 to the 5, y is equal to 6 times 10 to the 3, work out x plus 2y, giving your answer in standard form. So that's going to give me 4 times by 10 to the 5 plus 2 times by 6 plus 10 to the 3. And we could do this without a calculator, I'm sure, just 2 marker though, so we'll just type it into our calculator. So 4 times by 10 to the 5 plus 2 times by 6 times 10 to the 3. So that's going to be my value. Let me just make that multiplication sign clearer. So I'm looking at 412,000. So to make that a number in standard form, that's going to become, where's my answer line? 4.2 times 10 to the, and then we've moved the decimal point to there, so we've moved it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces. And there we go. Okay, that brings us to the end of the paper. Really nice paper from Third Space Learning. Again, check them out for any additional revision material you would want. Really nice paper. I've done a couple of paper 2 predicted papers, and a lot of those questions appeared on similar questions appeared on there as well. So excellent revision source. Thank you very much for taking the time to listen. Let's scroll back to the beginning. Thank you very much for taking the time to listen. Hope you find it useful. Feel free to drop me a question or comment in the thread, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Good luck and see you soon.